Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Shapiro, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this session of the EPA Alumni Association Academy entitled EPA Alumni Partnering with Citizen Leaders to Protect Their Communities. So today we're going to hear two examples of cases where EPA alumni volunteers working under the auspices of the Environmental Protection Network have partnered with community leaders to help them address important environmental questions and health concerns within their areas. I think most people at this point are probably familiar with the Environmental Protection Network, or EPN, but just quickly, it's a sister organization to the Alumni Association, comprised of, at this point, over 600 EPA career or political appointee alumni who offer their time to provide input on important environmental policy and technical and resource issues as part of their voluntary efforts. An important and growing amount of EPN's attention is in their technical assistance program. It's a pro bono program designed to support communities that have been disproportionately impacted by environmental and health issues. And it's provided an opportunity for leaders in those communities to partner with alumni who have either technical, administrative, policy, legal expertise in areas that can help them build the capacity to address their concerns and navigate the various environmental governmental processes that may be involved in getting resolution to their problems. It's been a growth area for the EPN. In 2023, EPN responded to almost 400 requests for technical assistance and involved about 100 or so of their volunteers in unique partnerships with community groups. So today we have, as I said, two examples of cases where EPN volunteers have provided technical assistance, and we're pleased that both the volunteers involved as well as community leaders are here to describe their experiences. We hope that you'll enjoy these presentations and learn from them. And also, we hope that many of you who have not done so to date may be inspired to offer your support for communities that may have need for your expertise. Each panel will have about 20 minutes to present their perspective, followed by 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A, question and answer. If you have questions, place them in the chat section of the Zoom call, and we will review them and get as many put forward as we can within the limited amount of time available. As you probably know from the announcement, following the first hour of a formal presentation and discussion, there will be an opportunity for breakout rooms where you can socialize with other alumni that are on the call. So to begin, the first example that we have is the Miller Peninsula State Park in Washington State, which is where the community groups are addressing important water issues associated with development of a RV park in the state park there. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Darlene Schoenfeld to begin the discussion. Darlene?
Let me put up my PowerPoint. And there we go. Went right away. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. So on the panel with me is Joanne Labaugh and Michael Cox and Carl Reverd. And Carl and Mike have been assisting Joanne and I. So I'll run through just a few slides to give you a sense of the issue we're working on. Miller Peninsula State Park.
We can't see your
well-
slides.
Yeah, somebody's got to share the screen, the share screen thing.
I'm sorry.
You can't see
No,
your slide.
Darlene, they need to give you access to share your screen.
We
It's
did.
up. It's already up.
Uh,
You
Not
can't
for
see it,
us.
Darlene.
We're not
Oh,
seeing it.
oh dear.
Whoever the host has to go share screen and then allow you to share.
No, I wondered why it popped in oh dear. How do I get out of here?
So Beth, did you share the screen for?
yes, I did.
you did.
Darlene's a co-host.
Oh, then she should be able to do it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It just popped up and I don't know how to get out of it. Just a moment. I'll go on quit. Oh dear.
You quit and start over again on the share screen.
Yeah. I'm putting quit, but it's not. Okay. Now I'm going to have to, all right, there we are.
No, it's still not showing, Darlene.
No, I know, I got out of,
Oh, sorry.
all right, so we're going to share the screen. And I can, all right, I've got to bring it up again, sorry. See why I said I had to leave it up before I knew this was going to happen. It's going to take me a moment. There we go.
Excellent. Excellent. Just enlarge it.
Just a moment, it has to fill up. Now I have two of them. And I'm going to go to share screen.
Go to slideshow.
Slideshow.
Up at the top,
Oh,
slideshow.
you can see this?
Mhm.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
but we haven't seen it big yet, Darlene.
Up at the top, slideshow, near tools.
No, it's here.
That works. That works.
Okay, right.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Oh, boy. Thank you. So, in Miller Peninsula State Park, I'm Darlene Shanfel. I'm chair of Friends of Miller Peninsula State Park. My panel includes Joanne LeBeau, Michael Cox, and Carl Revert. And I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice already. So we call it a park of peace and quiet, a park for the people, and a park for the planet. This is a photo taken by a friend of mine, Mary Ellen Everson. It's just a shot of a trail we take down to the beach. Miller Peninsula State Park is a 3,000 acre piece of land, and it hosts old growth and mostly legacy growth and 80 years and older trees, and more trees that are trying to reach that age. In addition, there's over 200 different plant species on the land. Now, the reason that we have this beautiful park is because of the soils. The soils are very special. They're only in our area, and they provide everything that is above the soils. And these soils are the habitat. This whole area is the habitat for very small and very large animals, such as black bear and cougars and deer, eagles, a whole variety of birds, which I'll talk about a little more later. And I always feel it is their land, it's their habitat. There's so much habitat that's dwindled, and what we have here is very special, and the public has to come in and understand that they're coming into a habitat that they have to respect. Now, the users of this land have been for the last 30-something years, hikers, bikers, and equestrians. And everybody is very, very careful and respectful. And some of the, especially the bikers and the equestrians, they have put out a lot of hours on upkeeping, building and upkeeping the trails. Let me move on here. So this is, you can see how large this park is, 3,000 acres. To the north here, we're just across from Canada, British Columbia, and the island of Vancouver Island, Victoria, British Columbia. And the animals that habitat there also habitat here. They're back and forth. Now to the right, to the east, are two homeowner associations, many homes. And to the west here is another homeowner association on the bluff, but all the way down the road are hundreds of other homes. These are small, we're a rural community, and the roads are very tiny and twisty here. So I'll talk about that in a moment because that is one of our concerns. If you come into Highway 101 or you leave Highway 101, this is the area that takes you to the northwestern part of the United States. We're at the top of the United States, if you don't count Alaska. So and we are also at the foothills of the Olympic National Park, just to give you some background, in case some of you have been here. And we also have a very important national, the Dungeness National Refuge. Now, let me see if I can go back here. So over 30 years ago, an international corporation wanted to cut down everything in the park and build a new city with villas and homes and all kinds of recreational for the very rich. And the citizens stopped it through many citizen initiatives because we have the right of initiatives in our county, and many, many lawsuits. We were able to stop their plan and they went away. And we saved the parkland to what you see today. Actually, it was half the size in those years, and we were able to double the size, and now it's approximately 3,000 acres. So now we are going from what I call quiet to crazy. State Parks has lifted a page from the international corporation's design. They don't want to build villas as far as we know, but they do want to build a large, they do want to cut into the parkland, and they want to put in a hotel, swimming pool, outdoor cabins, over 100 outdoor campsites with campfires. And this would just destroy the integrity of this land, and the animals wouldn't be here anymore. This is the latest plan. They had two others, but this is the latest one that they've gone to the parks commissioners with, and they are trying to get money from the state legislature right now, and we have letters going into the governor not to give them this money. But there's other cutover land they can use. They don't need to destroy a forest. that's a huge carbon sink and so important to the wildlife. The issue here, of course, is the air pollution that would result, fires that could result, but really water. There's, as far as we know, only one aquifer for the entire peninsula. It serves all of the homeowner associations and the other residents on the east side and the west side and the top of the peninsula. And this is where Carl and Mike and Joanne come in. We didn't know anything about water. We're not water experts. And Joanne, because she lives on Miller Peninsula right down here in Diamond Point, she reached out and to your organization and said, can anybody help us? And Carl and Michael came in. And before I turn it over to you, Joanne, I just want to point out to the audience, there are 2 links you can go to. This is a very nice website we have. We work with other organizations. It isn't just Friends of Miller Peninsula State Park, but another organization has developed this website. You can see more of the park, learn more about the park. And this is our recent handout, Preserve the Preserve. It's about our concerns of what can happen to this rural area if parks got its way. So let me go back to this and turn it over to Joanne. Should I take down the should I take this down?
No, you can
Or
leave
leave
it there.
Okay.
So as Darlene mentioned, one of the biggest concerns about this park development is the availability of water. The whole peninsula is dependent on groundwater. We have 2 community systems in the Diamond Point area, and I guess there's one over on the West Miller Peninsula. And then there's lots and lots of private and agricultural wells to the north of us, and to the south of us. And water has historically been an issue. I've been coming to Diamond Point area since the early 60s when I was a child, and I always remember them talking about, oh, the water, we don't have water, or there's the system's not working, or we have contamination. And in fact, as recent as this past summer, we had a boil water order for our water system due to E. coli. And the park system is maintaining that they're not going to use that much water, although if they're going to do this huge lodge and all of what they're talking about, I can see that they would use a tremendous amount of water, and that's our major concern. When Darlene put the request out for assistance with people with a law background and water rights, and also knowledge of drinking water, groundwater hydrology, I thought, well, the EPA network might be a really good place to go. And so I did. I put a request out, and we did get some responses. And that's when Mike and Carl got involved too, and it's been really helpful.
You have about 6 minutes left.
Okay.
So Michael and Carl, want to pipe in? Are you done, Joanne?
Yeah, I'll pipe in if I think of something else, but that was my main point.
Darlene, would you mind not sharing the screen? I kind of like
I can stop sharing.
looking at the humans. So just background, I worked at headquarters. I worked in Region 10 I was a drinking water manager there for a number of years. And so when Joanne came and asked for the help, started looking, and the first thing at least I wanted to know is, okay, what kind of water system is it going to be? And it's community non-transient. There's all sorts of monitoring requirements that have to go on. And ecology is the other, they do the permitting for the wells. So basically all I tried to do is help Darlene and crew in the morass of, we think federal regulations are complicated. Well, the state's kind of complicated too. So I basically just tried to help them understand a little bit better the navigation of between parks, ecology, and health. And they've done a great job. I mean, it's an amazing group of people that are very dedicated and smart and have done the right thing. They reached out, they put in comments, they've had meetings with their respective agencies, so they know they're there and they know that this is of concern to them. And so really the help, at least I provided, was pretty minimal. I think they were pretty much on track, but just tried to help them figure out the key points and who was responsible for what. I think that was the one thing I thought was that I probably added. So I don't know, Carl, what do you think? Got anything?
I'll add to it. Mike and I got into this at the request of EPN people, and I think I was the first one they called. And I said, yeah, I'll be glad to help out, but I may not be the right person for it. Can you find somebody else? So I don't know, Mike knew at the time. So I did a search, and lo and behold, Mike Cox's name came up early, and I know Mike Cox somewhat from working over years. I remember the lead and copper rule in particular, and maybe some other things, but we kind of collaborated a bit. And I'm sitting here in Washington, D.C., the center of the universe, but not everybody agreed with that. So I think getting involved, my first offer was to provide assistance related to the Safe Drinking Water Act and the drinking water program and public water systems and all the issues related to establishing a new public water system is difficult, and obviously under state requirements, under state primacy, the state of Washington deals with that. And lo and behold, Michael knew all the ins and outs of that, including staff. So we have, for those that don't know it, Washington has two agencies that are overseeing this whole effort. One is Department of Ecology, and the other is Department of Health. Department of Health actually oversees the drinking water program, and Washington Department of Ecology, I think, runs all the other environmental programs. And Darlene, I'm saying that I think that's true. They're both there. But I'll go on, I guess.
Yes. go.
Okay. I'm sorry. So basically, what we did was incredible helpful from EPN providing support. We had a number of conference calls, and a number of email exchanges over time. This, by the way, started, I was called last August 2023. So that's a year ago, and lo and behold, it was right in the middle of a process, and Darlene and folks asked a lot of questions that, lo and behold, we could help with. Now we couldn't solve any problems, although I think we could get them some ways. And we've also, I think, what I do when I volunteer for this type of effort is first think, where can I offer assistance? And humbly, I say I probably can't really run the project. I'm not being asked to run the project. I'm being able to facilitate efforts to get it move along. And one of the things you do is put them in contact with people. And I think we had some success there, mostly through Mike's got contacts there, as well as just understand the process. We had to establish a new water system in the state of Washington. Obviously runs under their own efforts, own requirements, and it's a long process. And knowing that whole system, I think just our interaction, led primarily from our end by Mike Cox, our interaction there, I think helped them understand what it takes. So our assistance so far, other than establishing an interesting and helpful relationship with each other, is that we are able to provide assistance where requested, and lo and behold, because of EPN, we also document on paper. I hate to be not bureaucratic, but every one of our meetings is documented. So obviously, and And at least Darlene and folks appreciated, I think, the documentation. It's hard to document every meeting. We know that. But that was one thing that does it so that we don't go over and over the same material. So I think we're progressing, and we're waiting to help more at the request of Darlene and folks.
One thing I'd like to jump in on what's with the help. I mean, because originally we're just meeting with state parks. We actually met with someone from the governor's office. But then how do we approach ecology? How do we approach Department of Health and the whole drinking water aspects? We didn't really know how that worked. So that's been extremely helpful. And I just want to add, this is there's a lot of community involvement in this project. We've had a few community meetings with hundreds of people showing up, and State Parks just does not want to seem to listen. So it's good to come up with ways that we can approach this problem in a logical, intelligent fashion. And that's one thing that both of you have been very helpful with.
And I'll stop there and answer questions or follow up. Other people can follow up if we have some time left.
Yeah, we're just about out of time. We have a few minutes, but I don't see any questions in the chat room at this point. I think one of the points you made, Carl, and several others made as well, is it's not just the technical expertise that you can bring to these kinds of situations. It's really your knowledge of the process and the organizations that are involved and how to navigate and negotiate them. That is immensely valuable to the groups I've worked with as well. It turns out that we know a lot more than we think we do, because we're so familiar with the processes that the organizations that we worked for run. So it's good to see that. It's also, I think, great to see the kind of ongoing, continuing dialogue between the community members and the group of alumni here. And actually, the final observation I will make, which you alluded to, Carl, in addition to the many talented volunteers, the Environmental Protection Network also has a cadre of professionals who are working with them and helping to facilitate meetings, make records of meetings, and keep the processes moving so that the volunteers' time can be used most effectively. So that's another important aspect of EPN's model that helps it be more productive and make more efficient use of the volunteers' time. So not seeing any questions, and I think we're just, go ahead.
So another Mike has joined the chat. And Mike Shepard asked, water's important, and well, what about sewage?
Oh, let me talk about that.
Yeah, I think Darlene will start and then everyone will join in, right?
I work on sewage issues for Sierra Club, so I'm very familiar. Pardon me. Yes, the earlier talk has been to set up its own sewage treatment plant within the park, and then take the solids, which I hope all of you know contain at least 350,000 contaminants and various other things in, and including PFASs. So they would then take the solids and spread it on land to nourish the soil. It would just decimate the animals, and this stuff would run off into the groundwater and the open waters. But that's their plan. Then they wanted to put the effluent straight out into the they would want to put it out into the Strait of Juan de Fuca, but I'm sure ecology would not allow that. I hope they wouldn't. But that's the plan they talked about earlier.
Sounds like more work to do.
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, I don't think they're thinking.
I'd like to offer up here that just to kind of give and Darlene, maybe you could, where are we now in the process? I know you've, there's been follow-up with the Department of Ecology, obviously by you all for forever, as well as Department of Health, and the state parks. But are they listening to is anybody listening to anybody here? And that's not being cynical. I'm being just saying, hey, are we progressing well?
Carl, that's a good question, but I think the discussion that it would trigger would probably run us past the time, since we're already beginning to edge into the time allotted for the second program. So I think we're gonna, if you hang around for the breakout rooms, maybe you could get into some of that. But
Okay, that's fine.
I really appreciate all of your input, and like many of these processes, it will be ongoing, I'm sure, for a while. But it's great to see the partnership that's developed here.
And we appreciate you bringing us in. Thank you.
Great. Well, we appreciate you making the time. So with that, Beth, I think we'll turn over to the next panel.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Mike, I'm gonna spotlight you first. Did you want to introduce the?
The next program is the Tar Creek Superfund site. And this is an activity which just involves one alumni, Jim Wolford, and two community leaders are present, Rebecca Jim and Martin Lively. And this is one of the more famous Superfund sites I remember from my days at EPA. So I think it'll be an interesting conversation. Rebecca, I think you're starting it off.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's hard to be notorious, isn't it? To have a site people know about. We were one of the first Superfund sites in the nation, and at 42 years, we're still barely scratching the surface on what's happened. My name's Rebecca Jim, and I'm the executive director for Lead Agency, which is our nonprofit organization dealing with this as an advocate for the people in the watershed. I'd like to tell you a little more. I'm a member of the Cherokee Nation, and I'm also the Tar Creek Keeper with the Waterkeeper Alliance. All of these parts that I carry are important to what we do here, and that is advocating for a place that really got forgotten. The issues here are air, water, and soil. One of your current employees for EPA once said, it's in the air, it's in the water, it's everywhere here, the exposures that we have. And I was a high school counselor dealing with Indian students. And as you'll see when Martin begins to show you the map, we had many tribal nations that were forced into this part of Ottawa County, Oklahoma. And that marvelous place that we just saw along the Vancouver waterway, our waters, we're here in the middle of the country, and you wouldn't imagine that water could harm us, but it harms us in many ways here. In the toxins that are in it coming from the Superfund site, mining waste, all the way down to the fish that we catch in the lake that our water flows into. So this will make more sense as we see the map. So Martin, I'd like you to begin sharing.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca. So while I'm sharing my screen, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Martin Lively. I am the Grand River Keeper with Lead Agency. I more or less grew up in Miami, Oklahoma, where our office is. And practiced law for a number of years in Georgia in a former life, and moved back here in 2012. I was actually one of the students in the public schools, when Rebecca was a counselor. So we've known each other a very long time. And this here is obviously Oklahoma. The purple lines reflect the boundaries of the 38 tribal nations in the state. We are in the very northeastern corner, and so I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And this is Ottawa County. And you'll notice that we have 10 of Oklahoma's 38 tribal nations in this county. 9 of them on this is the Neosho River here, and then coming down and forming Grand Lake. The 9 on the eastern side of the Neosho River are all headquartered in Ottawa County, and every one of them was forced to relocate here. We have a very unique cultural environment in this part of the country. We have settlers and descendants of settlers and many tribal nations living cheek by jowl for over 100 years in a very small area. Population of the county is about 30,000 people total. So a little bit about our site, switching over to satellite view. And this is a map that we made in cooperation with American Geophysical Union's Thriving Earth Exchange. It shows the flood zones in Ottawa County. So if I turn off our flood layer, you will see this is what our normal waterways look like. With the flood layers turned on, you will see that we have quite a lot of flooding in this area, particularly in the city of Miami, which is right here. This is Tar Creek flowing north to south. And then the Neosho River here is on the southern and western side of Miami. The dark blue area is the regulated floodway. The light blue is the 100-year floodplain. And the yellow or gold is the 500-year floodplain. So you can see that flooding is a major issue for us. If we go north through the towns of North Miami and Commerce, we come to this area. And this is the heart of the Tar Creek Superfund site. This is the former town of Pitcher, which is now disestablished. And underneath these colored areas, you see many, many piles of mine tailings, which we call chat piles. These are very large. Apologize for the erratic zooming. A repository is being made here. But what you will see, Tar Creek is flowing right through the middle of this image, is that many of these chat piles, which are loaded with lead, zinc, arsenic, cadmium, and other heavy metals, many of these chat piles are sitting right on the banks of Tar Creek, right in the 100-year floodplain, as well as Lytle Creek here, which goes up to the northeast. We do not have human exposures under control at this site. We have lead, dust, and heavy metals scattered throughout the entire county. If you follow Tar Creek to the south, right, we're going to go back past the town of Miami into the Neosho River, and we're going to follow this down until we get to Grand Lake. So the Spring River joins up with the Neosho here. We continue down to Grand Lake, and at the bottom of Grand Lake, we have a hydroelectric dam, Pensacola Dam. It is up for relicensing before FERC right now. The upper third of Grand Lake is on the state's list of impaired waterways for lead. And one of our major struggles has been to get FERC and EPA and tribal nations and the state of Oklahoma to be addressing the contaminants that are scattered throughout this watershed as the single unified problem that it is. I just wanted to sort of use this map to provide a little bit of an overview of the scope of the challenges we face. When we flood and we have a home that has ducts in the bottom of the floor, and those ducts may be encased in mine tailings, in chat. And that chat can form a sulfuric acid when it's inundated by water. It can eat through steel, and then you have dust filled with lead blowing into someone's home. So as Rebecca said, it's in the air, it's in the water, it's in the soils because it was carted all over the county to be used as fill for everything from playgrounds to alleyways to driveways. And Rebecca, I'll pass it back to you to talk about
Right.
how that triggered us to reach out to EPN.
Well, I will do that. Thank you, Martin. I would give you just, I'll walk you back in time. So our site in 1983 becomes a Superfund site. A lot of work happened at that time that we thought would solve everything. But one of the things that EPA did was ask for a fee waiver not to do the big work that they could have done. Our site went to sleep after that, and I do not believe any action would have ever happened if it hadn't been discovered that 1/3 of our Indian children were lead poisoned. That rang the bell, and that started a second operable unit. And that operable unit now, yes, is the whole county dealing with yard removal. There was a time, as Martin was saying, that we knew that there was an issue with air, and that this mine waste that they were digging up in yards was also beneath the foundations in homes, and was actually causing that corrosion and the stuff blowing through houses. So we turned that into EPA in '98, and we did not hear back from them that they had done any work on it. Anthropocene Alliance put out a notice that there was a thing called EPN, and would anybody like some help? So I did reach out, and Jim Wolford, he answered the call and began to talk about the other things we could do, and the other things we hadn't asked for, and the what next could happen, and actually has given us a great deal of hope. I want to tell you what we did next. We have an annual conference, a national conference on Tar Creek, and we actually invited him to come. And in the audience, we always have our Region 6 EPA officials come, and we just wanted to see if he could talk us through what has happened so far, and maybe what else could happen. So I'd like to introduce you to kind of the guy that came in with the cake, Jim Wolford.
I don't know if I came in with the cake or not. So good afternoon, everybody. Before I dive in a little bit, I just want to thank Chuck and Beth and Mike for really hosting us, and all the folks who are on the Zoom call for being on it. I know you guys are busy, and it's really encouraging to see all you participate. I was the director of the Office of Superfund Remediation and Technology Innovation for 14 years and retired in 2020. Right after that, I started working with my former colleagues at EPN on a number of different issues. And as Mike Shapiro indicated at the top of this, EPN kind of evolved into doing community technical assistance. You know, I heeded the call on that. And that generally, just so you guys would know, and Mike has alluded to this as well, is sort of, as you might imagine, demystifying the EPA bureaucracy and explaining to communities different roles between headquarters and regions, states, even tribes, who makes decisions, and maybe why EPA made a particular decision that they did when they made it, and also providing advice on perhaps different courses of action the community could take. Mike mentioned at the outset that there had been over 400 requests. I think from the Superfund side, I probably have worked on 20 or 30 different sites out there, and including Tar Creek, and there's been a lot of time on the Tar Creek. So when the lead agency through the Unforeseen Alliance approached us, they really asked us to ask me and ask us to work on two issues. One was the issue that Rebecca alluded to, which was what was going on underneath the homes. And also, could something be done on the groundwater remedy that was selected now 40 years ago, which still hasn't achieved its objectives, to use the EPA terminology, largely because as the acid main drainage has evolved, issues evolved at the site, there's now over 1 million gallons a day of acid mine drainage discharged into the creeks, which is a huge issue. But EPA has not moved yet to try to capture the AMD. So I reviewed the old decision documents we had. I started working with Rebecca and then Martin on what was happening from the lake, because one of the things I learned, and I didn't know this when I worked on the site when I was at EPA, is the site affects the lake, but the lake also affects the site. It goes both ways, because water will back up into the town because of the dam there. And so I worked with Rebecca and Martin and tried to explain them the EPA bureaucracy, what was going on, and then provide them some ideas about different ways that perhaps they could move forward in working with the region, perhaps working with headquarters. I have reached out to a couple people in the regional office that I had worked with when I was at the agency, just to get their perspectives. As you can imagine, looking at the slides that are the overheads that Martin put up there, it's a tremendously challenging site. It covers 40 square miles. It's thousands and thousands of acres that need to be addressed, and there's still the waste piles in place that need to be dealt with. There are the fines that blow around, which Rebecca has mentioned, and there's still exposures happening to the children and the people that live in the area. So and there's also things dealing with the subsidence issues, dealing with the mines, because they mined out, I think it's over like 100,000, maybe over 1 million cubic yards of material. So you have these caverns underneath that filled with water that's caused the acid mine drainage. So anyway, so I had been working with Martin and with Rebecca to give them some ideas of things they could do, tried to help them, strategize about how they can approach EPA, how they can look at, review different decisions, work with folks in the region, work with the headquarters, work with Oklahoma DEQ, all those things. So that's what my role has been in providing the technical and Mike described the organizational input as well, just to help them try to move the work along so that they're protecting the community members down there. So Rebecca, Martin, I'll throw it back your way.
Well, you're muted, Rebecca.
Always that way. I'm better that way. Thank you, Jim. What he doesn't tell you is, would we have ever had our regional administrator sitting in the front room if it hadn't been for some of the things he might have been saying? Maybe. Would we have had someone from headquarters come and sit at that table with us and have done? So I think what he has helped us do is to elevate and our site again. And when it was hitting the headlines, when it first was on the list, we were getting a lot of attention, and I think he's elevated it again, not necessarily in the press, but at EPA itself. The issues here are big, and and unruly because we're not only 10 tribes, but also 3 states, 2 regional EPA offices. And so it does get complicated. And one of the next operable units, OU5, is all 3 states in the whole watershed. And so we're, it's if we don't keep ringing their bell, it's not going to get done the way it needs to be done. And so we're very appreciative to have this kind of attention from someone with the background that he brought with him here. There's a lot more to do, and in certainly any other EPA or EPN members that say, you're ringing my bell too. We'd like you to join our team. I'd like you to jump on in and say, yeah, I think I know how to do this piece or that piece, because we've got children still that are at risk for lead poisoning. We've got children swimming in that creek. And thank goodness we recently had some the swimming area analyzed, and we know it's bad. But I don't know. It's a very challenging site, and I'm really happy to be able to do the work. But I'm happier now that we've got it.
Chuck had asked what has been the reaction of the staff, the EPA staff, and I would say both for the individuals I've contacted from the headquarters side and from the regional side, which this is very unusual. That doesn't typically happen at the site. Usually you're just talking with the community members or the organizations, but they have been, I think, very, from what I can tell. So this is my perception. They've been very receptive, because I haven't come in, beating them about the head and shoulders. I've really have said, have you, you come in and you try to create a dialogue. Have you thought about this? Are you aware of this? A lot of it has to do with how you approach the EPA folks that are still working on these very, very tough issues. And you have to acknowledge up front that, it's really tough issues and there aren't easy answers out there. But generally they have been, at least as far as I know and what they've said to me, that they have been pretty receptive to, in the conversations that, I've had with them.
Well, I'd like to
it didn't hurt us.
that.
Yeah, thank you. It didn't hurt us that you have said these things. It did not hurt us.
Right. And I'd like to add to that I can see a tremendous, it's like looking for a black hole, right? You can't see the black hole itself, but you can see the signs of it. And when I look at EPA right now, I am seeing signs of tremendous, serious, hopefully reassessment of EPA's strategy and approach. And that is because, in large part, I think of Jim's outreach and his demeanor. And, to those of you who are kind of imagining how this might work for you, I would just remind each of you that there is an opportunity while this administration is in office. There are receptive ears and a desire and a willingness to try and do what they can to make a difference while they can. There are a lot of sites that need help. There are a lot of communities that need help. We have seen a difference. And I think in the next 60, 90 days, we're going to learn a lot more about what that difference really means.
Thank you. And I saw that there's a question about Silver Valley, and we've been associating with that with Coeur d'Alene for 20 years. So they are 20 years ahead of us. And so they kind of tell us, well, this is going to happen, because they have a very parallel problem there.
Looks like Darlene had quite or an observation about a site in Region 10, Jim. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one.
That's the Bunker Hill Coeur d'Alene site that Rebecca was just talking about. And we should probably, that's a much deeper dive, Mike. I think we should probably take that to the chat room and we can talk more about it there. And I am familiar with those issues.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. We have still a couple of minutes left if anyone has any additional observations you'd like to make.
Well, I'd like to share the fact that we're wondering how Region 6 will react to the soil, lead in soil notice. So we're waiting to see if there'll be an adjustment in the cleanup level here. Ours has been 500 parts per million. The new standard should bring that down. So we're waiting to hear about that.
And for those of you who are not aware, the cleanup office just lowered its screening levels for its lead contaminated sites from the screen sites for further action from 400 parts per million down to 200 parts per million, but that's just a screening. So there has to be additional work that goes into cleanup. I will say this, at a site that actually just got money that was announced, the East Helena site, they just lowered the cleanup level there from 500 to 400 with an indication that they may go even lower. So this is all part of the reassessment that I think Rebecca was alluding to, that EPA I think needs to do at this site as well as the other 800 sites it has that has led us a contaminative concern.
Gift that keeps on giving, huh?
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, we are just about out of time. So again, another great panel, and thank you, Jim and Rebecca and Martin, for taking the time to share your observations with us. And hopefully folks who listen to these two sets of examples will maybe be inspired to either through EPN or other mechanisms lend their talents to communities like the ones we've heard from who really could use our help. So as I understand it, Beth, do we just kind of sit here and get flipped over to the breakout rooms?
Chuck?
Yes, well, one of the best parts of all these meetings is to be able to chat about what we've heard and meet again some of our old colleagues, so or young colleagues. And so I think I want to take about 30 seconds here. And those of you who are not able to stay, thank you for coming. And we'll just wait until you sign off. We get a sense of how many people stay behind. I'm beginning to think we probably will not actually break into two rooms. I think there'll be just about the right number for us to have a conversation among those who are left. So if you'll just give me a few more seconds and we'll just see how many people can stay. I hope as many of you can as possible. And Beth, if you could begin to unspotlight people, that would help, I think. Yes, I think we have a good group here to have a conversation. So who would like to start off with making a comment or ask a question? Anybody want to start? Well, I'll throw out a question. I mean, I could see that some of this may progress to a point where the community may want to become more formal in its relationship with EPA in terms of, well, maybe not a lawsuit, but some kind of petition or something, which may be quite appropriate given the circumstances. But where does that put someone like Jim Carl, in terms of their relationship with EPA, has that been thought through in these kind of cases? Nobody has an answer to that.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of whether I can recall any situations where that has happened to date. And I can't say I necessarily have, but I know some of the groups who have asked for advice that like you said, Chuck, could lead ultimately to litigation. But I'm not sure there are any cases at the moment where an EPN volunteer is directly participating in any litigation.
I really like Jim's approach to it, and when I was even a consultant, and not a pro bono consultant after EPA, I found that EPA employees would say, "Well, we're glad you're involved. You bring some organization and structure to our conversation with the parties who are interested in this." And I think that's what exactly I hear that Jim is doing, and hopefully it moves along in a cooperative way. And I'm not, by my just raising this issue, I'm not suggesting that we should move to some kind of legal issue. I'm just, it's always an issue, I suppose, when one is trying to help work with the agency.
Well, and I'll say this, and maybe Rebecca and Martin can weigh in on this. I am aware that at one time, the lead agency had a technical assistance grant under the Superfund program, I believe. So correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca. And I don't think that still exists, but that was sort of a formalized thing that had occurred. And that doesn't exist anymore. But I do agree with you, and it's something I've wondered about on my own, is that do I need to do become an LLC just to protect myself somewhere down the road. But I'm not feeling a great need to do that. But it is a question that I've had in the back of my mind. But it really depends on how the size of situations, and I make it, and Rebecca and Martin know this, I try to help them demystify what EPA is about, what's going on, how things work, and then not providing them legal advice or legal counsel. And I certainly point out to them, or try to, that there are different ways that things can happen, and different opinions about things that could be done.
So we have two people who have their hands up, Darlene and then Jerry.
Yeah, and no need to put up your hand, just jump in. I think we're a small enough group. Go on, Darlene.
Well, I think those grants do exist, but boy, they're tough to get. And you need a technical person to walk you through. And I don't know anybody. Well, maybe I do know someone that got it. But what I wanted to say is the reason our site, I'm working on a different issue here in Region 10, which started out as a Superfund site. But the reason that got to where it got was because of an ombudsman we had at the time. And had it not been for him coming out and showing EPA who declined to get involved, that they needed to get involved, that really turned things around. I don't know, do we have an ombudsman? They got rid of him. He was too good. He was helping citizen groups around the country. Do we have a national ombudsperson anymore? Does anybody know?
I don't know, but I'll look while we're.
You mean specific to the Superfund program or agency-wide?
I don't know. We wanted it on Superfund. Started out that way, but it's not there now.
Darlene, are you talking about Richard Martin?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Robert Martin, yeah.
Robert, yeah, okay.
Robert Martin. Yeah, the ombudsman function was, from my recollection, Jim was there long after I was, but it was moved actually to the IG's office. But I'm not sure what they did with that function.
Jerry?
Thanks. This is really kind of a question related to the Oklahoma site because it's, related to tribal property. I'm in Evanston, Illinois, and we are in the process of trying to apply. And when I say try, it's a heavy lift to apply for federal funding under EPA's Community Challenge. Let's see, they're called the Environment and Climate Justice Community Grants. There are two tracks. Track one, or many of you are familiar with this. Rebecca, you're nodding your head. Are you familiar with this? And are you thinking about this?
We're not thinking about that one, but we're thinking about a community change grant. Yeah.
Right. So
one of the actual and a very active area of EPN support right now is in the area of grant development for those programs. And if you go to the EPN website, they have developed a series of templates to help walk through the process of developing a grant proposal, and they've gotten volunteer resources to help kind of review grant applications to sort of help tune them up. They don't apply on behalf of anyone, but they are providing a number of volunteers from EPN are providing assistance in reviewing and helping to improve grant applications. So folks are interested in getting help in that area. You can go to the EPN website, which was listed in the announcement for this session. And there's a section there where it talks about tools and assistance that have been developed for grant applications.
Thank you, Mike. That's actually really helpful because navigating the technical assistance process is almost as complicated as applying for a grant. They spent $100 million establishing 10 TikToks around the country to provide that assistance. And there are direct technical advisors at EPA. Now I'm hearing about the EPN advice. That's wonderful. I hope I can figure out how to do it before the deadline in November. But yeah, thank you for that. As Beth knows, and thank you again, Beth, for your link to this meeting, I've been having a really hard time opening up any links that I get from EPN, including the EPN website. For some reason, my computer is telling me that site is not available to me. So I've got to find a workaround, whatever that might be. But thanks, Mike. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I got to it actually I was just checking today, and I just Googled Environmental Protection Network and and clicked on the link that they provided, which I think was a valid link, but it looked authentic.
So I can ask one other question real quickly. If we have been. We got a TAG grant, a technical assistance grant, early on, but for the last several years, we've been using the TASK program through EPA, and it's been very, very helpful, where they provide the outside technical assistance to work with communities to help us analyze documents that are coming out from EPA about our site, and then to help us develop comments back so that we can have a dialogue that on a level that they would better exchange with us. So it's been a really good program. We did have use of an ombudsman here during some of the early work when there was some great need.
There's people to help review documents that come out?
Yes, there is. It's TASK. It's technical assistance S for communities.
Services to communities.
Yeah, it's just a marvelous program that our community uh, person at EPA at Region 6 told us about when we were thinking about applying for another tag grant. She said, you can save an awful lot of time and just request the technical assistance that would. They've been very good.
So the thumbnail sketch,
technicals.
yeah, the thumbnail sketch on that is it's a contractor that's actually under my former office. And what they do is they actually manage the contractor and all that, and the community members just approach through the regions and ask for this assistance as TASC. And then the contractor has individuals on board and can reach out to various people in the communities, and including people who work at universities and other places, and they actually then just sort of match up people. And it has, as Rebecca says, we think it has worked very well, and it's not a grant, but it is an EPA contractor that supports that ends up supporting the communities. When I was there, they were probably working, I want to say, in 80 to 100 different communities, but that's 4 years ago now.
And it's called a tech assistance for communities?
Technical assistance services to communities, I think, like that. When you don't work on something for so long, it's hard to
Thank you.
remember.
Excellent.
ASC.
Yeah, sorry, but that was unmuted. You're right. Yeah, Jim, it's the TASC contract, Technical Assistance Services to Communities, TASC.
I tell you, that sounds like Mike Northridge.
Yeah. I'm sitting here. I got East Palestine. I got a bunch of stuff I'm doing. So I was joining late, listening with a half ear. All right, guys. There you go. I'm still grinding away. I'll catch up with you one of these days.
I will say this. I had this when we were, just because of time. When I've worked on sites, I mean, I have touched on everything from enforcement questions when Mike is in the enforcement office, to natural resource damage questions, as well as cleanup and technology questions. So the range of questions that come in, and I think Rebecca now has NEPA questions that are coming up. So, even through the Superfund program, you get in all those areas, and that's where having a group like the EPN is really good, because among our 500 or 600 volunteers, odds are we can find someone that can help out a community.
Although I have not done the EPN technical assistance, I've got my hands full with these other things I'm doing, but I would speak from my consulting time to this effect that I heard earlier in this meeting, and that is that for someone who's worked at EPA, a lot of these questions are pretty straightforward and simple, and are easy things to address, because it's like falling off a log. It's just kind of something is natural to someone who's worked at EPA, which is very foreign to people who have not worked there. And I think people should not be worried about whether they can help or not. My sense is that you will, of course, run into technical questions. Maybe you can't answer them, but maybe somebody else at EPN can, some other alumnus. But there are so many things, I think, that it just will come naturally to an EPA alumnus that you'll be surprised that, oh, I could help them on that. I understand that. And that's what makes it rewarding, because you can see that you bring something to the table that the others at the table who have skills that you don't have and knowledge that you don't have, that you can still add to the conversation.
And I'll add to that, Chuck, that I would say half the sites I've worked on have been an investment of 30 minutes or less, right? And it's because, as you said, you know the answer. It's like falling off the log. Maybe you have to dust off a few cobwebs here and there. But, you know, it's like, oh yeah, I know that, I can answer that. So, you know, and it's just good to have that expertise that you can provide a community. And again, I think that's what the EPN, you know, brings to the table.
So that
I would just say,
it's there, so you might as well use
perspective,
it. If we might as well tap into it because it's just sitting there among all these alumni, 500 or 600.
yeah. From a community member's perspective, there is tremendous value in being able to talk candidly with someone who has experience at EPA, to share your concerns, to share your hopes, right, your fears, and to get feedback that says, you know, this, and this, that's pretty reasonable. These other things, don't know if that's really realistic or in the realm of the possible even. It's really useful to have a sense of, okay, we know where a patch of firm ground is now. If nothing else, we know that we're not being unreasonable, you know, or that we need to reshape a hope or a goal that we have to become more realistic. You know, that is just tremendously valuable because then we can take that to the people in our communities and we can say, you know what, we happen to be in a position to say with high confidence that we're pretty reasonable in asking for this, so let's keep asking, and to encourage people to keep working on this piece of the puzzle more than that piece of the puzzle. You know, and that's, again, as you were saying, Chuck, it's something that if you've been in the business, it's easy and it's obvious, but to the rest of us out here, it is place.
Well, another thing I think that I've found was that it helps to say, well, I don't think EPA is going to be very receptive to your concern unless you have some data. Maybe you need to do a survey. Maybe you need to do some measurements. In other words, I think as an EPA person, you sort of have a sense of, well, to be persuasive or even get in the door, it helps to have your thoughts organized and maybe some data. And that can be helpful because I think we have a good sense of how, I mean, this is an overgeneralization, but we have a pretty good sense about how EPA employees think about solving problems. And that may not be intuitive to community members at all.
Chuck, I just want to say that I really am, I really appreciate all of those comments because I also get involved locally. I have not been involved through the EPA network, but sometimes I've gone to meetings where it involves a site and I can talk, and I talk to community members, and all I do is give them information that I'm familiar with, and they may not know anything about Superfund or ATSDR, or they exist, or they have a function to evaluate impacts on health, and just to give them a sense for how things work. I think you were spot on in your comments. It's empowering to communities to understand some of this stuff.
Well, any other comments before we close up shop? Really great to see all of you and hear from the community side of this. To those of us who are alumni, it's encouraging to know that communities value even advice from people who have already left the agency. Makes us feel maybe we can make a contribution.
Yeah, and again, I'd like to really thank the community leaders who took the time to participate with us today. So it made a huge difference in terms of our appreciation for the work being done, I think.
Oh, thank you.
I think that so when Mike and Betsy Sutherland reached out to us and said, wouldn't it be great to do another session on technical assistance to communities? You know, the whole goal is to get other alumni interested in helping. So we're going to have a video of this that is going to be posted on our website. So hopefully we will get other alumni who couldn't join today to see that.
That's really great to hear. I hope this happens again. I think I just wanted to add that I feel a sense of urgency right now as a person working within my community, trying to solve some environmental justice issues, and looking down the road, politically about, where EPA lands, given various possibilities. I feel a sense of urgency for taking action, for working, maybe accelerating our assistance in some ways. And so thank you for putting this together, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Well, Jerry, I'd like to connect with you. Those are our fears too.
Yeah.
So I as the community, let's do this.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I'd love to do that.
So how do you all, did you all want to share in the chat your email addresses, or do you want me to send you each other's email addresses?
If you'll do that, that'd be great.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you. I just threw mine in the chat in case, Rebecca, you want to reach out.
Jerry?
The other thing I'd like to ask you, if we had the real privilege to work with Thriving Earth Exchange, and I would say it's your partner in this. It's another set of people that are doing good deeds. So sometime or other, you guys need to meet and have a party.
I just want to echo Jerry's concerns about timeliness. There are just a few months left until an election. I spent an hour and a half last night on informal conversations on environmental justice with a section of the Virginia League of Conservation Voters. And 3 panelists who all lived in Tidewater area, Norfolk and Hampton Roads and all. One of the questions I asked them is, are they aware of EPN and the fact that it could provide technical assistance if they were to choose to apply for the grants out of the IRA? And they said no. So I did a pitch for EPN for them. Only one of the 3 was aware of the grants process in the first place, and they had been working within their organization. But these 3 people had a much further reach than that in that area. So I was hoping that they might make up their minds to apply with some urgency, because the monies for this could vanish in about 30 seconds.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, Penny, and actually Mike for raising this as well. I'm going to look at that website as soon as we get off the call.
Do you have to be a Superfund site to get a TAG grant?
Yeah.
Yes.
You do, okay.
But you
But
don't
there
have
are
to be a
other
Superfund site.
grants.
But you don't have to be a Superfund site to benefit from the task contract that Jim was referencing.
And you don't have to be a Superfund site to get feedback from EPN experts either.
Right.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
Environmental and climate justice grants that are $10 to $20 million are limited to community-based organizations in partnerships with either municipalities or institutions of higher learning. So we do not require any type of
okay.
And that's what I was thinking of for the Oklahoma example. They have set-asides of the I forget what it is, 1.5 billion available. They have set-asides for tribal lands in particular areas. So I don't know if yours would qualify, but regardless, there's still 1.3 out there up for grabs.
Million or billion?
Billion.
Billions.
Billion, yeah.
With a B.
But the minimum grant is $10 million. So not many community-based organizations, 501c3s are really, have the bandwidth to apply, which is why I'm really looking forward to this technical assistance.
Okay, so thank you all. I'm going to pull the switch here, and we'll see you around. hopefully solving environmental problems. Thanks a lot.
Thank
you,
you.
Chuck.
Thank you.
Bye.
You.
Thank you, Beth.